I know people always say this, but genuinely, I am just so delighted and honored to have you all here at Google. My name is Bhavna Chabra. I'm the site lead here at Google Boulder and a senior director in engineering. So the whole engineering, tech, woman in tech is very special to me. And to be here when Lucy's being honored is so amazing. The more I learn about you, Lucy, the more it's amazing to me. Google, we've been in Boulder since 2006, and we really try to do a lot of community outreach. We're very concerned about making sure that underrepresented groups have a fair chance in the technical community. I myself have been here in Boulder since '93. And I'm going to keep this short, but I want to say that my connection with Lucy, not only is it that the NCWIT, the organization that she founded, we have invited over many times to give us a science-based, science-backed explanation for why we need diversity and why we need to hear lots of different voices at the table when we're doing all our tech strategy and planning. But as an aside, Lucy's husband, Professor Sanders, you was my senior project professor in 1995 and prepared me as a woman to go out in the tech world. So I have this indirect connection, so you can see how just on many fronts, I am just so happy to be here today. And with that, for someone who will say things much more eloquently than I introduce Gwen Young.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you, Google, for hosting us today and working with NCWIT. Thank you, Lucy, for being here. I'm Gwen Young, and I'm the CEO of Women Business Collaborative. And we are the leading alliance focused on leadership, women's leadership, and advocating for all women in business. So I'm thrilled to see everybody here. We have one of our champions and our leading board experts, Marta Newhart. Thank you for being here. NCWIT is one of our 87 partner organizations. So Terry Hogan, nice to see you. We also have Clear Edge Marketing here who's working with us. Where's Leslie? Right there. And then Avery Stonefish Studios. Avery at Stonefish Studios helps us with all these Trailblazer awards. So we're just really thrilled to have everybody here. And I'd also like to welcome my families here. So I'm a little nervous in the room when my parents are here. And I'd like to thank John Young, a WPC champion, and Young Global Wealth for donating the wine for this evening's event. But let me tell you why we are all here today. We are honored and thrilled to award Lucy Sanders with the WBC Trailblazer in Gender Equity and Diversity Award. And this award is awarded to individuals who have implemented innovative change in their communities. These individuals have furthered gender equity and diversity in everything they do by lifting up those around them and cultivating inclusive communities. These extraordinary individuals continue to pave the way for others, leaving an unmistakable mark in their communities and leading the way for future generations and leaving an invaluable legacy. So for this reason, WBC is honored to present its 2024 Gender Equity and Diversity Award to Lucy Sanders. But first, let me tell you just a few things about Lucy. Lucy is the co-founder and executive resident at the National Center for Women in Information Technology, a national organization that works to broaden participation in computing. But she has extensive industry background, having worked in R&D and executive VP positions at AT&T, Bell Labs, Lucent Bell Labs, and Avaya Labs for over 20 years. And she specialized in systems-level software and solutions, multimedia communication, and customer relationship management. In 1996, Lucy was awarded the Bell Labs Fellow Award, which is the highest technical accomplishment bestowed at the company, and she has 6 patents in the communications technology area. Lucy serves as a trustee on several organization boards, including the Colorado School of Mines and the International Computer Science Institute at the University of California, Berkeley. She was a member of Governor Polis's COVID response team in 2020 and is currently the workforce lead for the state's submission to the U.S. Department of Commerce to designate Colorado a quantum technology innovation hub. So it's perfect that we're here today. For her leadership, which continues to leave in its wake generations of diverse female talent in technology, computing, and all STEM fields, I am proud to honor Lucy Sanders, the 2024 Trailblazer in Gender Equity and Diversity Award. Lucy, please join me. Thank you. Please go ahead. So shall we sit down?
We should do the Olympic thing.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
You can look at it. It weighs enough that you could do a few workouts right there.
I don't think I want it around my neck, however.
That would be the. So Lucy, I'm going to start with what seems simple. I was inspired by an interview of yours that I found on YouTube recently. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this first question as it came from you on this interview, but I think it sets the stage for the rest of this conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about your first job in IT and how it set you on the path to co-found NCWIT?
It's a tough question. I get a question often about what interested you first getting in IT or computing. And I can remember my eldest sister, Mary. She got one of the first computer science degrees at Louisiana Tech University in where I grew up in Louisiana. And I thought, wow, she's the only woman in her class. Like, what is that about? But then pure greed set in. And I realized that when she went to work, she made $12,000 a year. Yeah, like it was awesome. And so I thought, well, I mean, I like math, I like science, but I'm not particularly adept. I mean, I could do them. But anyway, I went into computer science. And when I met my husband at LSU, and my first job was at AT&T Bell Labs. And one of my former colleagues is here tonight from Bell Labs, and two of them actually, Katie's here too. And it was there that I finally realized, after 4 years and part of a master's degree, the power of computing, I would say. That, AT&T telecommunications, and it was like, I was in a lab and I wrote software. You remember old phones where you would pick up the receiver and the red light would turn to green that showed you were off hook? Remember those? I wrote the software that did that in the lab, and I went running down the hall screaming, like, I could do that. I could actually make this machine do that. And that's really where I first started to really love it. And it pretty much right after that, and Katie will remember this too, Bell Labs was so diverse that we started working on diversity. Bell Labs was really diverse. So my first job was really exciting, got me into computing, but also because it was Bell Labs, they believed in diversity, and so that's where we really got to it.
Right, from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if you fast forward today, you and I were talking earlier, right? There's a huge demand for workers with computing experience today, regardless of sector or industry, right? And I think I'll read some stats, even though you and I know there's the stats and then there's the story they tell, right? Mm-hmm. But the Department of Labor has projected that 3.8 million employment openings in computing-related jobs in the US by 2032, right? And though there's incremental progress for gender representation, women are 27% overall, and women of color comprise only 12% of that workforce. So how do we continue the progress, and how do we really look at women of color and racial and ethnic diversity as well?
Those stats are pretty accurate. The 27% number actually is looked by many of us as progress. In the 80s, we were up at about 30% participation of women. And then it declined significantly to almost like 18% or less. And so 27% is it's pretty good, but it's not good enough, right? One of the things we like to say is the numbers tell a story. Participation numbers, representation numbers tell a story, and we need to keep measuring. But so too do numbers that we don't often look at. We don't look at what jobs people are often in. We don't look at their influence. We don't look at what they're inventing and creating. We don't look at if we're activating their diverse lived experiences or not. So I guess I would like to say too, we need to add those metrics, and it's very hard. People who have worked with NCWIT over the years know those metrics are hard to get. There could be patenting metrics. There could be the kinds of jobs that have influence around what gets created and how. Mm-hmm. So we have to look at representation numbers, and you mentioned some, but there are others. Mm-hmm. For example, what are military veterans? What are those numbers? What about age? What about ethnicity? What about all the different groups that aren't represented yet and bringing their diverse lived experiences to the creation of new technology and innovation. What about that? What if we could activate all of their ideas? That's what we're aiming for. And so the numbers are interesting, and we need to measure them, and we need to add more relevant metrics to this idea of activating diverse lived experiences in the creation of new technology.
And this might seem like an obvious question, but how important is that to creativity and innovation?
Huge. Like you can make many analogies. Those of you like how many of you like to go out to eat?
Two-thirds of the room.
Tell the truth, tell the truth. It's like saying it doesn't matter that, if only one demographic group created all the food that we ate out in restaurants. That would be very boring. Or if only one demographic group created all the movies or the entertainment or wrote all the books or created all the artwork. We wouldn't like that at all. Innovation, technology innovation is creativity at its core. It solves the world's toughest problems. So I don't know why we put up with it, that we should storm the Bastille. But I just think we should not put up with it in the same way we would not put up with that.
Absolutely. And it's more than just race and ethnicities. We're talking about it's neurodiverse and disabilities and other things.
All of it. And military veterans, military spouses, there are a number of groups that we're not hearing their ideas in the creation of new technology, and have great ideas. They're living. They know how to solve the problems, that we have today.
I was just talking with the CEO of Otis Elevators this morning about the 5 generations in the workforce and talking about cross-mentorship, young to old and old to young, because usually we look at mentorship as people farther along in their career. I want to talk a little bit about AI and generative AI. How has that changed the conversation? Has it? Is there an opportunity here?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not an AI expert, and I don't want to crank myself up to be one. But I would say AI has been in computer science for a very long time. And there's a lot of hype around it right now. And to me, so I am an innovator. I believe AI can help us unlock a lot of hard problems and help us a lot. So you go on a medical visit now, they can look at images through AI applications. They can look at lots of different things that doctors can then go look at and verify and make sure that it's right. Maybe they catch things, maybe they don't. There's research around radiologists and how many things actually miss with the human eye. So there's a lot of ways that AI can help us. It's just like any other technology, it's in the hands of who creates it and what it's used for. And so all of us need to understand it at some level, but I don't think it's fundamentally different. AI, like this generative AI, is AI that takes content that other people already created and maybe creates and puts it together in different ways. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have emotion, not really creative in any real sense of somebody thinking, wow, that's a problem over there. And if I put that piece and that piece and that piece together, it really can't do that at any level. So for me, I'm kind of unimpressed. It's more part of computer science. Now, quantum, on the other hand.
I know I want to get you started on that.
Don't get me started on that. That is a game changer, And AI on top of quantum computing, that is a game changer.
Anything you want to give us headlines on the quantum computing and what we're going to hear in the next, let's say, 18 months?
The quantum technologists probably need to do that. I'm working on the workforce part of it, but it's amazing technology, and it really is very reminiscent of traditional computing and the curve it climbed. Some of you remember that. There was hardware people, and they were making new hardware platforms, and they were competing hardware platforms, and people built operating systems, and then they put software on top, and then they put applications on top, and then we had all kinds of processing power, and you go, whoa, 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 right? And it's kind of a similar climb, but the outcomes are more significant because of the increased processing power that comes from quantum physics and quantum modeling of problems. So we're just in the early stages of building the different hardware platforms and trying to figure out how they can actually work and be reliable. And they react a little bit adversely to noise, for example. They need a lot of cooling. There are a lot of things that have to happen in the platforms right now to make them manageable, but the state is proud, and the Rocky Mountain West is proud to be the Elevate Quantum Technology Hub of the whole United States. And so we're going to be right here. This is the place where we're going to figure it all out.
I love that. So I want to switch back to, you mentioned the workforce, but we talked about organizations. You talked about diversity at Bell Labs. Like, from your perspective, what are organizations doing right, or who have you worked with that's really trying to get this right in terms of bringing in diverse talent for innovation and creativity?
Well, we're sitting right here in one of them, Google, and I'm not saying that because we are sitting right here at Google, but Google has always taken a full ecosystem approach. And so as a corporation, that's very unusual. I just want people to know it's super unusual to care about building the pipeline. At the same time, they care about the culture and the environment in the organization itself. And so that is, sort of a full-bodied approach that's unusual. And, and it's hard for a corporation to keep that up. And I think we're seeing now the tech sector is struggling a bit, and it's hard to kind of keep up a lot of that community involvement. But it'll come back. But Google has always been that way. Significant dollars in computer science education in this country, significant dollars into the universities, significant dollars into their own corporate culture, and everything else. So universities, there are some universities really doing it right now. And they have an easier time sustaining it, really, because the students show up, they offer degree programs, there's a revenue stream with that. And some universities are, many actually, several in this state right now, 40% of the engineering incoming freshmen are women, which is really unusual,
That's
and so that's
fantastic.
starting to really happen, I think, across the country, that the post-secondary spaces. And when you look at K-12, there's a lot of hard work done, especially by a shout out to the National Science Foundation and organizations like Code.org that have really put computer science education into the public school system, rigorous, relevant, inclusive computer science. College Board, and that's happening. So a lot of these students are graduating from high school really prepared to even understand what it is. Like we used to hear, well, maybe women just, or others, don't want to be in computer science. And it's just kind of like, well, how do they know? They don't even see what it is. They haven't been exposed to it. But now in high school, they are being exposed to it. So that's happening. So all those organizations, I think the corporate space has a harder time staying consistent in many ways because of the complications and challenges of industry and what's going on in the market and stuff. But a number of companies, but I really want to point out Google and their full-bodied sort of approach to what they do.
So I'm going to ask you with all the awards that you've won and all of the opportunities, what's been the biggest challenge or what's been the biggest opportunity for you to be able to, not just found NCWIT, but continue your drumbeat for equity and diversity across all that you do?
Well, I didn't think I'd be in quantum computing.
Remember the beginning of the story, right?
I didn't think I would be. It's kind of like this woman right here called me one day and said, "Don't you want to volunteer for this idea I have?" I know. When I learn more about it, I think the thing that drives me the most is I want people's ideas I want diverse lived experiences in the technology we all use. I want them because we can't keep creating technology that serves the needs of one or two demographic groups. We want a broad spectrum. Mm-hmm. It's going to really help the world. It's going to solve different problems and solve problems differently. And so that's what drives me. When I heard about quantum, I go, oh, I have to be involved with that. Then I called Zach up. I go, I have to be involved. He goes, who are you? So, I think it's that kind of thing that really drives me. I really want to put diverse lived experiences in technology. That's what drives me.
So now we get to give you the opportunity to this audience and to WBC, NCWIT, and our 60 corporate sponsors. What's your call to action? What do you want people, organizations, individuals, what should we be doing?
Well, I usually will talk about, and I'm going to do it this time too, I'll talk about the power of encouragement and validation. So many times people think that this is about money and hard work and time or confrontation, or I have to stand up for this or that, and that's all true, of course. It is about that. But the easiest things are sometimes the most impactful. Validating somebody else's ideas, taking the time to notice that somebody had a really good idea and say it, and it's especially true for those who are not in the majority group in a creative setting, but it's true for everybody. It's human. So validation, taking the time to validate good ideas, and then taking the time to encourage learners, to encourage a learner to study something, to go for it, to understand a new area or something else. And so those are two really simple things that I find anybody, you could walk out today and do that.
Anybody can do that on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that we have such an amazing audience that we should congratulate you once again, but give us the chance to go talk about what everyone's doing and in the space, NCWIT, you, WBC, and others. So Lucy,
Thank you.
thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you. This is
thank
great.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming.